Shortly after Carr makes his statements about ABC, Kimmel gets yanked off the air. This decision came after senior executives at ABC, Disney, and affiliates convened emergency meetings during which multiple execs felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, but the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. As one source at ABC put it, they were pissing themselves all day. Oof. On the bright side, that proves Disney is #1 in streaming. Thank you.
If you haven't heard by now, Jimmy Kimmel has been canceled because of pressure from Donald Trump, and apparently, if you're not out here building shrines to Charlie Kirk, you're next on the chopping block. It all started Monday night when Jimmy Kimmel opened up a show with this monologue.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Now, that's not a radical take, it's just accurate. MAGA influencers and politicians have been bending over backwards trying to cast Charlie Kirk's suspected killer as anything other than one of them.
In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
Here's the truth. Trump doesn't give a shit about Charlie Kirk. Their whole relationship is transactional, or rather was transactional. He's only talking about Kirk because Kirk helped him get elected and because Trump's base likes Kirk. Not only that, but the more that Trump name drops Kirk, the more it drives sales of Kirk's books, which just so happens to be published by Winning Team Publishing, a company co-owned by Donald Trump Jr.
Suspicious.
When I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, he was dead. Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is. I mean, who thinks like that? And why are we building a $200 million ballroom in the White House? Is it possible that he's doing it intentionally so we could be bad about that instead of the Epstein list? By the time he's out of office, the White House will have slot machines and a water slide.
But I want to point out, even people like Nick Fuentes, yes, that Nick Fuentes, thought that Donald Trump's reaction was dog shit.
I was genuinely disturbed by Trump's reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. Isn't this your friend? They asked him about it the day after, and he said, yeah, anyway, so we're building the new East Wing. Are you serious? You got shot. This is your 31-year-old friend who supported you for years. You know him by name. Your son is friends with him. It doesn't seem like he could be bothered. He didn't go to the memorial. He's golfing. He's dancing at a sports outing. He said he got the news about Charlie Kirk. Oh, and I was in the middle of building the beautiful new ballroom. Really, man? What a disaster.
Agreeing with Nick Fuentes makes me feel like we're living in
The Twilight Zone.
So after Jimmy Kimmel made those comments on his show, right-wing influencers accused Kimmel of lying, of saying the killer was MAGA, which he didn't. He criticized MAGA's spin, not the shooter's politics, but accuracy has never been their strong suit. So then, serial plagiarist and paid Russian propagandist Benny Johnson brought on FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr to his podcast, who said this.
But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. And again, we may ultimately be called to be a judge on that.
Yeah, Remedies, you know, like when a government official uses mob boss language like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way about a late night monologue, that's not a remedy. That's a threat.
Again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocations from the FCC.
And this isn't just car freelancing. After Kimmel was canceled, Trump himself doubled down on Air Force One, whining about this.
And ask Brendan Carr to weigh in on other late night hosts that you have.
Well, you know, when a late night host is on network television, there is a licensing. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won, and easily won all 7 swing states, popular, won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr.
Imagine being so weak and pathetic that you think mocking you on TV should be a crime. And journalists noticed. Brian Stelter tweeted, I asked FCC Chair Brendan Carr if he had any new comment now that ABC has pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show, and he sent me this gif. He even commented with this nodding gif of Jack Nicholson in response to actor Kevin McHale's tweet that said, this was all in Project 2025, by the way. Also, the hypocrisy couldn't be clearer. Back in 2022, Carr tweeted this. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship.
All they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
And honestly, if the FCC can yank Jimmy Kimmel for making fun of little dick Donald Trump and his bootlicking lackey Brendan Carr, then what's stopping him from coming after smaller shows like... Sorry about that, totally normal, definitely wasn't cut off by a government stooge. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, censorship. Nexstar, which owns dozens of ABC affiliates, announced they were pulling Kimmel's show. Sinclair followed, and then Disney, which owns ABC, suspended him indefinitely. And not because they believed he crossed a line. Rolling Stone reported executives didn't think Kimmel's monologue broke any rules. They just didn't want a war with the Trump regime. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. I'm so excited to see Kyren Williams take the field this season. I'm thinking that in the first game, he can have even more than 1 rushing touchdown. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your stakes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Download the app today and use code Sanchez to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Sanchez to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This is chilling, and it gets worse. All you have to do is follow the money. Nexstar is currently waiting on FCC approval for a $6.2 billion merger, the same FCC that Carr sits on. Imagine being a company and realizing that the easiest way to grease the wheels of your merger is to cancel the late-night host that the regime in power hates. That's not free market pressure, that's government coercion. That's nice TV license you got there, shame if something happened to it. And this isn't a one-off. Over the summer, CBS canceled the late-night show with Stephen Colbert after a $16 million settlement with Trump. They insisted it was financial.
Sure, Jan.
The financial excuse doesn't make any sense when you realize that South Park and Paramount signed a $1.5 billion deal at that same time. Trump openly celebrated that Colbert was gone, saying Jimmy Kimmel is next. But it's important to remember that Trump's obsession with Kimmel comes from one specific moment in time, when Kimmel publicly humiliated Trump during the 2024 Oscars.
I was told we have like an extra minute, and I'm really proud of something. I was wondering if I could share it with you. I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed-up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous. Blah, blah, blah. Make America great again. See if you can guess which former president just posted that on Truth. Anyone? No? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still watching. Isn't it past your jail time? It's focused on the important stuff for sure.
That is what sent Trump off. So when Kimmel's suspension was announced, Trump couldn't contain himself. He posted, "Great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President DJT." And just so we're clear, this is the same guy who during his inauguration speech on January 20th, 2025 said this.
After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about.
You sure about that?
So, according to Trump, free speech means that he gets to talk as much as he wants, but Jimmy Kimmel and others can't say anything bad about him. Yeah, that's not free speech, that's just a dictatorship with extra whining. So in Trump's world, a comedian losing his show is great news for America. Forget lowering drug prices or fixing infrastructure. The real policy win is silencing a late-night host who made fun of him. Trump also called for ABC to be investigated for hate speech, which is ironic because this is the same guy who said this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
But sure, Jimmy Kimmel is the one that we need an FCC task force for. And this next part should infuriate you because the same people who scream about cancel culture, who melt down if a creepy cartoon skunk gets cut from Space Jam 2, are now cheering as the federal government pressures companies to cancel critics. So when Dr. Seuss isn't on a shelf, it's the death of free speech. But when a comedian gets yanked off the air because of the president's buddies at the FCC have threatened broadcasters, well, that's just accountability. Even Tucker Carlson, of all people, warned about government overreach.
You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if it is, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever, and there never will be. Because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think, there is nothing they can't do to you because they don't consider you human. They don't believe you have a soul. A human being with a soul, a free man, has a right to say what he believes, not to hurt other people, but to express his views.
Yep, things are so broken that Jimmy Kimmel and Tucker Carlson are on the same side on an issue, and that issue is maybe don't let the president decide who gets to be on TV. This whole thing is way bigger than Kimmel. It's about whether free speech exists in America if your speech pisses off the president. Remember, free speech doesn't mean that a company has to give you a platform, but it does mean the government can't threaten companies into silencing you. Because that's what this is, a government official saying, pull the show or lose your license. That's not a marketplace of ideas, that's the mafia. Thanks for watching What Was That? If you want more episodes, articles, and breakdowns, go to whatwasthat.show. Join the community and become a paid subscriber today. It's just me behind the scenes, so every bit of support really makes a difference. And if you'd rather listen on the go, you can find What Was That on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. Until next time, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?